Hello and welcome to English Learning Hub. English Listening Test. Designed for B2 learners. This test consists of 30 questions which are divided into 6 parts. I will give you a short instruction at the beginning of each part. Before we get started, take a pen and paper so you can take notes while listening. Are you ready? Let's get started. Part 1. Listen to 5 people talking about which characteristics in a person annoy them. Choose from the list which characteristic each person mentions. Use the letters only once. There are 2 extra letters that you don't need to use.
I'm very easygoing actually, so there's not much that annoys me. The thing that I really can't stand though, is bad manners, that lack of polite behavior, like someone interrupting me while I'm speaking. I mean, there's just no excuse for that really. Anything else, say being a bit late for an appointment is fine, but not that.
I suppose people who don't seem to respect or care about other people's things. And I'm thinking mainly about my brother here when I say this. He's always borrowing my stuff and then either losing it or breaking it. And if I refuse to lend him something, he says I'm selfish, of course. I can't win.
Well, that's easy to answer. You see, I share a bedroom with my sister, and you can't imagine what it's like in there. There's stuff everywhere. She has tons of books and folders, and she'd need an empty room just for her clothes and shoes alone. The closet's about to burst. In fact, it's difficult just to walk through the room. None of this is a problem for her, of course. She just tells me to chill out and take it easy.
Well, I'm not the most patient of people, so lots of things annoy me. The usual things, bad manners, messiness, and so on. I'd say that people who only think about themselves make me really mad though. It's nice just to consider others sometimes, isn't it? It's not all about you.
I think jealousy's a really bad thing in a person. I don't like that at all. But thinking about it again, even worse is a person who doesn't do what they say they're going to. You know the type. They're never on time, they cancel plans at the last minute, that kind of thing. I've had arguments with people in the past because of this.
Choose the correct option. Part 2. Listen to a young businessman talking about job interviews.
I'm delighted to say that today in the studio with us we have Daniel Cuthbert, who's going to talk to us about his experience of being interviewed, and I'm sure he'll have some great tips to share with you. Welcome Daniel, and thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, well, thanks for inviting me.
Now, there were a lot of strong candidates and the 4 who got a second interview all said that they found the interview especially challenging. What was the hardest thing about the interview for you?
I'd done a lot of preparation, you have to really, so I was very confident that I knew what I was talking about. And I had quite a few examples ready too, of things I've achieved, because I knew they'd ask for that. Keeping my answers short and to the point was difficult at times, because generally speaking I have a lot to say.
Well, you got the job, and that's all that matters. There were 5 people interviewing you. Did that make you nervous?
Yes, definitely. In the past, I've had interviews where there have been 2, or even 3, people on the other side of the desk, but never 5. So that was a bit scary. One thing I can say for sure is that nobody smiled very much. But I know that they were just doing their job, and after all, with so many huge companies between them, I suppose they know what they're doing when it comes to business.
Now, were there any questions that you couldn't answer during the interview?
Not really, no. As I said, I'd done my homework and I pretty much guessed what type of things they'd ask. There were a couple of places where I could have done better, but overall I was pleased with the answers I gave.
Okay. So, how did you think it had gone when it was all over?
You know, the funny thing is that even though I believed in myself, I knew that the other applicants were both smart and experienced, perhaps more so than me. I knew that I could do the job, and that I had most of the qualifications needed, but I couldn't help thinking that they'd go for someone who'd had a different type of education.
Finally, if you could offer one piece of advice to anyone out there going for a job interview soon, what would it be?
Only one thing? Well, it's obviously important to look the part, be neat and tidy. And of course, being late is never recommended. But I'd say the main thing to remember though, is to be yourself on the day. Interviewers can tell if you're acting, and that just won't work. And make sure you read as much as you can about the company before you go.
Right, well thanks for coming in today, Daniel, and I hope you'll be very happy in your new role.
Thanks very much.
Choose the correct option. Listen to 5 people talking about road safety. Choose from the list what each speaker says about road safety. Use the letters only once. There is one extra letter that you don't need to use.
We all know the importance of wearing seatbelts, of course, but my number 1 tip would be to keep an eye on your speed when you're behind the wheel of your car. The limits are there for a reason, And it's better to leave 15 minutes early and take your time than to have an accident and not get there at all.
Well, because of the weather we have in this country, one thing that's really important is to check that you have the right clothes on before you go out in the dark. And that applies if you're walking, jogging, or cycling. You should always have something on your upper body that can be easily seen and that reflects the light. It could save your life.
Many accidents happen because people are so distracted by talking on cell phones, even when they're using hands-free kits. I'd say just avoid them completely. It's best to concentrate 100% on the road in front of you. You never know what's coming up ahead.
I think there's so much more to being a good driver than knowing the traffic laws and speed limits. You have to drive according to the weather, that's really important. Give yourself more time if it's raining, for example, because that slows traffic right down. And keep your distance from the car in front of you because the road surface will be more dangerous.
Apart from all the obvious things like not driving fast and not talking on the phone, I'd say planning your trip is pretty important. Especially in winter. Make sure you have everything you need in the trunk of your car because you never know what might happen. I mean things like a blanket and some food, in case you get stuck, or even medicine.
Choose the correct option. Part 4. Listen to a radio interviewer talking to a young girl who does volunteer work for an environmental agency.
Hello, I'm Ryan Phillips and this is Environmental Corner. With me today is Mary, who volunteers for an environmental agency. Mary, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks very much.
Now you've done some volunteer work for an environmental agency in Asia, haven't you?
That's right. It was for a diving and marine conservation group in Thailand.
So, what exactly is marine conservation?
It's basically anything to do with things that live in the sea.
How long did you spend in Thailand?
Oh, it was quite a long time actually, let's see. I'd already decided to take a year off before going to college, but didn't want to spend the full 12 months working on the project. I wanted to, do a bit of traveling too, and I had to work to earn some money as well. So, I spent about half my gap year there.
What type of things did the volunteers on this project do when they were there?
Most of us were involved in diving surveys where we helped to identify seahorses. There were so many different types. And that's what I was involved in. A few people worked with local fishermen. They looked at which kinds of fish they catch and taught them about keeping certain fish safe for the future. Others helped with cleaning up the beaches in the area, and they got local kids to help out with that.
How many days a week did you have to work? It sounds like you were very busy.
There was a work schedule each week so we knew what was happening and when. The schedule varies, depending on the time of year, the weather, and the number of volunteers on the project. We normally worked 5 days a week and did some diving each day. We had 2 days to ourselves to relax, travel back to the mainland, or get involved in some of the other activities that there were, like diving or boat trips.
That sounds like fun. What were the living conditions like?
Well, we shared wooden bungalows with other volunteers, 4 people to each one. The accommodation had electricity provided by a generator for a few hours in the evenings, and each bungalow had an attached bathroom with a bucket shower. Basically, that's just where you use buckets of water to wash yourself. The bungalows are just a few feet from the beach, so the sea views are amazing. Everyone ate together in the area that we all shared. It had a kitchen and large dining area and had plenty of space to study or just enjoy the view and relax. The surrounding garden had an equipment room, and in the evenings, staff and volunteers went there to play cards or watch a DVD.
Not bad. So, do you need experience if you want to work on one of these projects?
Obviously, it would be a big help if you already knew something about marine biology, but no, volunteers don't need any previous experience. One of the first things everyone is taught is how to dive to the necessary level. There are lots of qualified instructors there. You'll actually leave Thailand with lots of experience under your belt. A few of the guys even learned how to do building work, and you might even have the chance to study some tropical plants in the nearby jungle.
It certainly sounds like a valuable way to spend your time, if you have that kind of time to spare, of course.
Oh, definitely. I'd recommend it to anyone with an interest in environmental issues and choose the correct answer.
What would I do if I found a wallet on the street? Well, I could ask people in the street if there were any around. But, I think that actually, no, I wouldn't touch it. I'd just walk past it and let someone else worry about it. Life's too short, I have enough of my own things to worry about.
Oh, I'd definitely pick it up and see what was inside. The person who dropped it might have left an address or phone number, or I could maybe find them through Facebook if there was something with their name on it. But, to be honest, I'd probably just put it back if there was no address. What else can you do? Maybe the person who dropped it might come back and look for it. If you took it away, they'd never find it again.
I suppose you should take it to the police, that would be what you're supposed to do. I suspect, though, that I'd probably just pick it up and spend all the money on shopping. That's not very honest of me, is it?
Well, I wouldn't believe my luck for a start. But you couldn't possibly keep it though, could you? I'd take it to a police station, of course, and let them sort everything out. But I'd hoped that the person who owned the wallet would give me some money for being so honest.
I wouldn't give it to the police. I don't think the person who lost it would ever think to go to the nearest police station. I think I'd put up some posters in the local area instead, like a sign in a shop window or on a lamppost, things like that. I'd ask them to call my cell phone, and if they could describe the wallet and tell me what was in it, then I'd meet them and give it back. I might get a lot of joke calls though.
As part of International Explorers Week, I have a young woman in the studio today who's going to talk about the British explorer, Sir Ranulph Fiennes. Now, Lisa, I know that Sir Ranulph is one of your heroes, and you've also just completed a study of him and his achievements for your geography course. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I really admire him, and that's why I wanted to do my project on him. I think he's amazing because he's achieved so much.
So, tell me more about that.
Well, he has courage and he doesn't give up easily. He didn't reach the top of Everest the first time he tried because he had a heart attack. In fact, he attempted it 3 times before he made it. The second time didn't work out because he was just so exhausted.
I didn't know that. Does he have any fears at all?
Oh, he's actually afraid of all sorts of things. I know he's not thrilled about very cold weather, which is strange if you want to climb Everest. He also had a bit of a thing about getting lost up there and never being found. And the thing that worried him most, apparently, was his fear of heights. He's had that since he was little.
So, an amazing achievement considering that. Has he ever spoken about the view from the top?
Yes, I remember talking about that. He said that it was like something from a fairy tale. He felt he could practically reach out and feel the clouds, and that there were what looked like millions of stars in the sky. And apparently, the moon looked magical, shining just above the clouds.
That does sound amazing. I wonder how he felt when he did reach the top.
You'd think that most people would be so glad to have made it, wouldn't you? Or they'd just feel really proud of what they'd done. He had so many problems though, health issues I mean, he just felt awful and couldn't wait to get back down.
So, does that mean that he didn't actually do anything up there at the top after all that hard work?
Oh no! He had to send reports back to various people obviously, and he had the flag of the charity he works for with him. He wanted to put that down and get photos of it, and they were able to do that. They wanted to get photos of lots of other things they had taken with them as well, but the weather was against them, so that didn't happen.
I see. Well, Lisa, unfortunately we're out of time, so we'll have to end there. It's been a pleasure talking to you and thanks for joining us.
Thanks.